What are the scariest 4 words in the English language, especially when it comes to relationships?
Jeff Foxworthy says they are "we need to talk."
If you've ever freaked out when a dating partner or even a marriage companion said this to you, you are not alone. And this video is for you, so stick around.
Remember to subscribe and hit the bell for notifications.
This video is sponsored by Canyon Foot and Ankle. From simple nail care to advanced trauma and reconstructive care, their podiatrists have the training and skills needed to resolve even the most complex cases. Treat your feet to the exceptional care they deserve.
Jeff Foxworthy also said, "When we were first married and my wife said we need to talk, I would make the mistake of talking. But after a few years of marriage," he says, "now when my wife says we need to talk, I do it just like when the police pull me over. I put my hands on the wheel, look straight ahead and answer yes or no, because I don't want to talk until I know what I'm being accused of. I might admit something she didn't even know about."
All kidding aside, we all know that communication is an essential part of marriage. So why is it so scary?
Who was kidding?
Well, I remember once, Jeff forgot what Jeff Foxworthy says. And he said, "Kathy, we need to talk."
Maybe I did that on purpose.
No, I think he really wasn't thinking, because it left me so nervous all morning until we actually had a chance to talk.
And we went for a walk.
But until we had that chance, it was just in the back of my mind churning, what are we gonna be talking about? Oh no.
So if you really want to torture your spouse, say, "we need to talk," when you have no opportunity to talk.
Well, and apparently he did it on purpose.
Honestly, when your spouse says, "we need to talk," have you ever seen those words followed up by a compliment or praise? You always know when they say, "we need to talk," that you're in some kind of trouble, that you have done something insensitive or hurtful, and we need to talk because it has to be corrected. However, whenever there's a problem, we want to do what we might do if we were a little kid and we think there's a monster under the bed. We want to, get up, turn on the light, and look. And you see there's no monster there, and then you go back and you get in bed and you go to sleep. The devil you know is better than the devil you don't, right? And so it's important when you need to talk about something to talk about it, but don't announce that there's a problem until there is adequate time to talk about it and work on it. But do make working on it a priority. Delay when necessary, but don't avoid. That's the mature way to deal with stuff like this.
Jeff, I have this pet peeve, and it's another saying, and they're not the 4 scariest words, but they're annoying.
Okay.
The words, "no offense, but..."
And why would you say that if you weren't about to say something offensive?
Every time it's offensive.
Right.
So don't give the disclaimer and then think that's going to just nullify and void everything you're about to say.
Right. Think of a better way to say it without having to make a disclaimer.
Exactly. Or don't say it.
Right.
Or at least realize you're going to be offensive and just own it.
Right. And the same thing with "we need to talk." It always precedes something that you're going to find uncomfortable.
Or maybe even life-changing.
Yeah, on rare occasions you might say "we need to talk" when you find out your wife is pregnant or something like that. And that becomes a happy moment. But in general, when someone says "we need to talk" and then they keep you hanging until later that night, that's like being held over the fire. You think there's something really wrong, and almost always when someone says "we need to talk," it means you're in trouble.
Right, so even if it's happy news, not the best words to use.
Right. Don't say them until you have time to talk in the moment, because otherwise it freaks your partner out.
Well, what about the idea that we're busy and we have to sometimes schedule in talks? How does that work?
I think it's fine to schedule in a talk, but don't make it seem like it's this big thing that you can't even tell them the subject of. If it's that kind of thing, wait until later to do it. If you can tell them it's roughly about this subject, but we don't have time to discuss it right now, then I think it's okay to do that.
Yes, I think definitely letting someone know what you're going to be talking about, if you're going to be talking about something specific, is helpful. I also think that it might be useful, especially if this is honest and sincere, to say, we need some time to connect.
Right.
When's a good time for you?
Now, just for our viewers' information, Kathy and I got back together after a year of not dating, just being friends, about 5 months before we got married. But during that time, when we were kind of deciding what we were gonna mean to each other, Kathy told me that there was something she needed to tell me, and she hinted around about it. It was kind of like, there's something I need to tell you, and I trust that you're a forgiving sort of person, and this sort of thing. And I'm thinking, what in the world could this be? I thought of every scary possibility under heaven.
But see, that could be strategy, because that means that whatever I have to tell you probably won't be as bad as you think.
She made me wait all day long.
I'm sorry.
And then we had a Zoom call that evening after several hours of intense torture. And crazy thing, after the Zoom call, I was so both relieved and exhausted from this day of emotional turmoil that I wanted to relax with her. And so I ended up making an hour drive to see you. Remember that?
Yeah, I thought that was really sweet, actually. And yeah, I didn't think about addressing this until you mentioned it. But if someone says to you, we need to talk, and you have that fear come over you, they may be the 4 scariest words in the English language, but it really is up to us how scared we choose to get and how much we let it take over our day. I believe that when this happened back when we were dating, we didn't know about the thought work that we do with our coaching clients as life coaches. It's work that we do within our own minds now.
Right.
And it is something that, since you said we need to talk in more recent months, maybe in the last year or so, I remember, I think, handling it better than I would have in the past, because I could say directly to you, oh, that sounds bad. Should I worry? And I think it reassured me I didn't need to worry, but you didn't tell me what it was, so I still kind of worried, but I tried not to let it steal my day.
Yeah, we went on a 20-minute walk and solved it relatively easily. So it wasn't like this big life-changing thing, but when Kathy told me that there was something she wanted to talk to me about and she hoped I would be forgiving and all of this, I thought, is she about to break up with me? I mean, there were all these thoughts going through my head about what it could be. And of course, having to stew on that all day, that wasn't the greatest thing. Now, honestly, of course, my thoughts are my thoughts. They're my responsibility. But in the interest of being the best partner you can, don't put your partner through that. And try not to say, we need to talk, when time and circumstances don't permit a full conversation over the matter that you need to talk about.
Or if you're going to say, we need to have a conversation, just try to do so in a way that's reassuring. And I think I did try to reassure you. I think I said, we're good. There's just something I need to tell you about myself.
Which is what she said the last time she broke up with me.
I don't think so. I think that was different.
She said, I think this is going to work out really well for both of us.
I did not.
Something like that.
Oh, whatever. Okay, well, let's go on. So we have a few suggestions. And obviously we've learned this from trial and error. It's not because we always do it perfect.
So we're saying don't avoid the subject. Don't use the silent treatment on your partner.
That would be stonewalling.
Don't explode in anger. All of these suggestions are in the interest of creating a safe space to discuss hard things, to make your relationship a safe place to be who you are and say what you mean in a kind way, and knowing that you will be accepted. Speak calmly and respectfully about sensitive issues. And if you can't do that, if you can't find the words to say it nicely in a non-threatening kind of way, take a timeout.
And timeouts are always temporary. They are for a period of time to get calm so that when you do come together, it can be productive conversation.
Right, and we find after a timeout, we can usually resolve things pretty quickly, 5-10 minutes in many cases.
And we've built trust that we are coming back to it, that it isn't stonewalling, that timeout is temporary.
Yeah, that it's not intended to hold somebody over the fire. If you have a timeout that lasts 3 or 4 or 5 days, you might want to rethink the way you're handling it, because that does sound punitive. It sounds like you're trying to keep the other person in suspense and cause them as much worry and pain as you can. And that is not at all the point.
Or it's simply that you're not being brave enough to have the conversation. And
Right.
we all have to do those hard things
Right.
in order to be in relationships that are healthy.
Exactly. So friends, tell us in the comments what might be words you'd rather hear than "we need to talk." And remember, anytime is a great time for more love in your life.
Thank you so much for tuning in to LilyTube.